Hello, welcome back to another episode on John the PM YouTube channel, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job but a way of life. Topic of today is going to be on the closeout of a project. All right, so let me begin first off by saying the closing really begins at the beginning. Wow, that's a unique phrase. Yeah. Begin with the end in mind, as espoused by Stephen Covey in his great works that I am currently referencing. And I really do mean that. Begin with the end in mind. Envision yourself. What does a good closeout look like? What is the state of the customer? What does the products look like? What does the widgets look like? What do your teams look like? What are all the different stakeholders that are involved? What kind of shape, form, fashion will they be in? How will the product that you develop, the good or service, how will that be rendered, and so forth? In other words, begin with the end in mind on that. So that's probably going to be the very, very first thing that you ought to do. Looking at the closeout very specifically, there's going to be three items that's going to occur in almost all projects. I really want to say all projects, but I'm sure there might be one out there where that doesn't apply. But I find it very challenging to believe that it would not be all projects in that case. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say almost all. What are those three items? I'm going to list them, but they are not in any particular order. They're not in order of priority and anything of that nature. They just need to be all taken into consideration. The first item that you may want to actually think about is going to be the transition. The second item that you may want to think about is going to be closing out the accounts. And then the third item I would like for you to think about is going to be lessons learned. Again, those are not in any particular order. They're just, top of mind in that regards. Let's tackle them one by one. The first one, let's think about the transition. You may ask, the transition of what? Well, what I'm actually referencing is the product. Now, that can either be a good or a service, whatever it may occur. And the project team has to hand off that widget, whether it's a good or service, to someone. So, for example, if you're in a construction type project and your project team just built a home or residence, or a commercial building, doesn't matter what the building or the structure is, they built it, that team is going to leave and that building will be handed off to the owners in that case. If you are developing a product, let's say that you're in product development, research, something of that nature, and you go through the trials and tribulations of creating this brand new product for your customer group, that is awesome. Again, you are going to hand it off to operating and maintenance, on that side, on those areas. In other words, it's going to be operationalized in that regards. If you are creating a product that's basically going to end of life, that's good. It's just you're handing off the end of life, in that regards, and it is kind of buttoned up and disposed of properly, in those pieces. Let's say that you are doing an annual conference, either for a volunteer group or for a standing conference for your organization. You finish the conference. You basically have two items. You can hand it off to the team that's going to take care of it next year. Or if it's the last one, then it's going to be end of life and you're going to button it up, on those cases. So those are just some examples of what I'm referencing when I say the transition. So at the very beginning of the project, think about how will this widget, whether it's a good or service, will be transitioned. Either to an owner, to the or end of life, one of those two options, in that regards. The second thing I like to talk about is going to be settling the accounts. Another way of saying this is making sure that the money is right. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, quite frankly, pay your bills. Double check your subcontractors. Be careful of, or mindful of privity contracts and things of that nature, but make sure everybody has been paid. There are a lot of business people out there whose whole business plan is to not pay the subcontractors. And honestly, that is just a horrible idea The reason why, one of the biggest reasons why, is that the people that you hurt, they're just good, salt of the earth people that really, at the end of the day, still have a house note to pay, car notes to pay, baby food to buy, on those areas. So, you do want to make sure that you do not hurt the good salt of the earth people, in that regards, on that side. So, again, try make sure that the bills have been paid. Now, there is a piece in there, okay, a subcontext. In order for you to have paid your bills, hopefully you have been paid by your client, okay? And if you haven't been paid by your client, more likely you're going to kind of pick up the phone and ask your client, hey, what's up? Maybe they forgot to pay. That does happen within systems and things of that nature. They, on those pieces, maybe they held back for intentionally because they weren't, satisfied with some parts of the services that you have provided. In that case, hopefully you'll negotiate, come to some conclusion, on those ends, and make sure that payment has been rendered, that you've received payment, in that regards, on that side. Hopefully everything comes to a good smooth landing. So either way, the accounts do have to be settled. Now, there are going to be a group of folks out there that's going to say, but hey, John, I'm working inside of a company and we don't really have like payments to subcontractors and things of that nature. I'm just doing this work for behalf of my group, things of that nature. You know what? That can be absolutely true. No issues and or concerns. I might throw in there might be intercompany transfers that you may or may not be aware of, but your accounting group, they should have a pretty good handle on that. So again, you do want to kind of double check that intercompany, transfers and handling, the various accounts inside of an organization has been satisfied. But think about this: you have people that were associated with your project. If they did an awesome job, then send a thank you note to their boss and say, hey, so and so did an awesome job on the project. Really appreciate it. Thank them for allowing them to opportunity to work on your project, so that you can deliver the widget that they wanted, in the first place, in that regards. So again, just an example of, settling the accounts, both internally, externally. Externally, it is quite honestly a little bit easier to think of conceptually because you're really just, making sure the bills have been paid and that you receive payment. But don't forget that even internally, you do need to make sure that the human resources, that the people, that their accounts have also been satisfied in regards to thank you notes and making sure that their resumes have been updated, HR transcripts, or whatever may be the case, that's relevant to your specific organization. But let's not forget about that. The third item, again, these are not in any order of importance or anything of that nature. They all essentially have to be done. But the third item is going to be lessons learned. Now, I do have another video on lessons learned, so I'm not going to do a full layout on the lessons learned. But I do want to mention this in regards. We know one thing as project managers. One is that all projects end, and two, there's going to be another one behind it. The goal of the lessons learned is to be able to replicate our successes on future projects and to minimize our less than stellar result on future projects. And the only way that I know how to do that is to do a lessons learned. Go back, make sure, do sustained improvement or whatever format that you like. It does take the organization some discipline in order to make sure that that actually occurs there on that side. But again, it is well worth the effort, on those pieces. Again, I'm going to have another tape, on episode, on lessons learned, and so I'll save some more thoughts regarding that. Okay, so these are just supposed to be short and quick to the point, in those areas. So I'm just going to do a quick recap here on the closeout. The very first item that you need to do, action item that you need to do on a closeout, is at the very beginning, think of how this project will close. Okay. Where are the conditions, definition of done, the making sure that the stakeholders are happy, the product is of excellent quality, whatever may be the case, all those cases are, you need to think about before you actually begin the work, on that side. When you do get to the closing of your project, again, there's going to be three items you need to be cognizant of. The first one is going to be that transition, whether it's internal, external, on those pieces. Make sure that the transition has been done well. Who is actually taking care of the widget after you leave. The second item is going to be settle the accounts. Another way of saying this is making sure that the money is right. Again, this is easier in an external organization. In other words, you're actually dealing with subcontractors and things of that nature. That really resonates fairly well. But internally, just think about the people and make sure that your HR processes have been updated. Things of that nature. Maybe you send notes to their supervisors, on that regards, on that side. And then the third item is going to be lessons learned. Please be sure to do that. And in fact, go ahead and check out one of my episodes on lessons learned where I go into a little bit more detail, regarding those pieces. All right. Well, I appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button and the subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps us to help you. And because really at the end of the day, we want you to be extremely successful on your projects. I appreciate it and have an awesome day.